everyone, I'm DJ Phillips for JamPlay.com. Today we're looking at the song Long Train Runnin' by the Doobie Brothers. It was released on their 1973 album, The Captain of Me. It's essentially just a minor 12-bar blues, and originally the song was written, and it was just like a bar jam. They just kind of something they would pull out when they needed to just jam, and then eventually convinced them to record it, and it became their biggest hit, or at least one of their biggest hits. It's got one of the most recognizable guitar intros in the main lick there, and we'll be covering that. And there's actually 3 guitar parts in the original recording, 2 acoustic and 1 electric. And then I've also arranged the quick harmonica solo for electric guitar, just so you can kind of see what he's doing there. So in the next scene here, we're going to take a look at the first electric guitar part and the main catchy riff that starts off the song. All right, the first thing we're going to look at is the electric guitar number 1, which is the main electric part in the song, and it's got the beginning riff that is so recognizable for this song. The good news about this song is, like I mentioned in the intro, it's just a 12-bar blues essentially in minor key. And so once you get the progression down, that's pretty much it. The only real trick is where we do the stops in the different verses, and the outro has got a little bit of it's got a retardando and then a stop, and then we come back in. So the chords, the main progression is once you've got it, you're good to go. So let's look at the main riff here. That's the big recognizable riff that you're going to cling to when you hear this song. So we're going to start at the 10th fret. It's a G minor 7 chord. This is essentially what we're hammering onto. We're starting with 10th fret. You're going to bar the 10th fret starting on the 5th string. So skip the 6th and then 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 all the way home. And then we're just going to hammer on 11th fret on the 2nd string, 12th fret on the 4th string. So we're hammering on to, you probably recognize this G minor 7 shape. So we're hammering on to it. So it's just a series of hammering onto that and then coming off of it to your 10, 10, 10. That is it for the main riff. So fairly easy once you get that down. If you're new to bar chords, this could be a real challenge for you, but it can be a good exercise to sort of get that down. If bar chords are easy for you, you've been doing it for a while, then this should be a piece of cake. So as far as the right hand rhythm, try and get that, if you're having trouble with it, try and get just that 16th note rhythm going. And you can use a lower tempo, set up a metronome and just click off quarter notes and then do 16 notes, just so you can get used to what that feels like. 1E and a 2E and put the emphasis on the beat. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. And, slow down. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4. So that's going to give you a lot of that rhythm is just going to come from that 16th note, that whole thing, really. Okay, so that's our intro. Then once the band comes in, we do another 4 bars of just that. So we've got this, the 12-bar phrase, the kind of blues phrase, doesn't really start until the vocals come in. So before that, we have 8 measures of just. When the band comes in. Okay, right before we start singing, he does this little thing that's really cool, which is you hold the 10th fret bar, as we've been doing, and then you put your pinky on the top here, which essentially creates almost like an F over A kind of thing, or F over G, I mean. So it's that cool thing, and he just does that right at the end. He does that a lot throughout the song, just at different parts that he wants to kind of lead into the next part. So keep that in mind. And the rhythm is clearly kind of got a real structure to it, but there's a little bit of room for rhythmic improvisation and stuff like that in there, where you can kind of add these little things, and it sounds pretty cool. Okay, so when we're building up to when the verse starts, we're going to do another 4 measures. Okay, when we go to what is the 4 minor chord, so when we would change normally in a blues is, the 5th bar, we would go to a C minor 7. So similar shape to this, but we're going to add the pinky on top. So starting on the 3rd fret, 5th string, 3, 5, 3, 4, and then 6. And he kind of mutes it, so be aware of that rhythm, of the kind of choked rhythm of it, and you can just do that with your left hand. And then he's going to drop this pinky back to give you like a minor 13 kind of sound. By itself, kind of an ugly chord a little bit, but in the context, coming from there, it sounds really cool. And we're going to jump back up to that original phrase. And the turnaround, you go to the flat 6, so regular E flat chord, starting on the A string, 6, 8, 8, 8. And then we're going to go to a D sus. So starting on the 5th string, 5, 7, 7, 8. So you can just hold your regular D chord and then just put your pinky on top, because we're going to resolve to that regular D. 5th fret, 7, 7, 7. That's our turnaround. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's kind of the classic, like when you think of that song, you're like, oh, that's the part. If I just played that without playing you the rest of the song, you'd probably know what I was trying to do, which song I was trying to play. Almost as much as the opening guitar riff, not quite. So that's our turnaround, and as far as the rhythm goes, he just does quarter notes in this part. So you can do add a little bit of rhythm to it if you want. We're back to our 1. Okay, and that's the whole progression. That's the whole 12-bar progression there. So let's just go through, like as in the start of the verse, starting the progression. So we'll go through the whole phrase. We'll do it a little bit slower than record tempo. So record tempo is about here. We'll go something like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Through that little guy at the end, you can do that. He does that at various places, usually at the end of the phrase to kind of turn it back around. So that's most of the song. That's the vast majority of the song. We're not going to throw any other crazy chords at you. That's it. So if you want to learn this song, concentrate on that. If you're having trouble on this part, there's not really anything you can gloss over, because you're going to need that for the whole rest of the song. So take your time if you need to, and dig in and learn this progression. And it'll be worth it, because it's going to take you throughout the whole song. So the only real changes are in the, let's see, it's the 3rd verse. So we go intro, and then we have verse, verse. There's not really a true chorus. That turnaround, we could call it a chorus. So when I say verse, that means the whole 12-bar phrase. Having said that, so we've got the first verse and second verse, which are the same. And then the 3rd verse, we've got stop. So on the 1 of each phrase, and you can just do that like 16th note run up into it. Sometimes he does coming from the 10th fret bar, and sometimes he just hits the chord. So it's kind of improvised, so you can kind of add where you want. The tab will be written exactly how he plays it, but I don't feel the need to go through the whole each stop, because it's not really that much of a difference. And you'll hear that it's coming so quickly, you can kind of do either one, and it sounds good. And then once you do that, the phrase of ones with the stops, so it's 4 measures of stops. And then everything else is the same. When we go back to the 4 chord, the 4 minor chord, picks up where it left off there. And he does that little F over G kind of thing to lead into that 4 chord. And so that's the third verse. And then right after that is the harmonica solo, which we're going to do on guitar. But underneath that, the only thing that changes is the rhythm, and we're just going to hold a G minor 7 chord, but with the flat 7 on top, so your 13th fret on top. So 10, 12, 10, 11, 13. He does a rhythm like that, and really it's the same thing, just kind of keep that 16th note going in your right hand, and you can kind of play with the rhythm a little bit, but it's... Right after that, verse number 4 has the stops, just like verse 3 did. So it's exactly the same. You can kind of play with the rhythm a little bit as you want. That kind of thing. And once we go to the 4 chord, it picks up back up again. Verse 5, right after that, is a little different. We've got stops again, but they're a little different this time. And it sounds like this. So we've got different kinds of stops. So we're doing quarter notes on our G minor 7 chord. Then we're going to go down a half step, then back up. And that's all it is. And we're back to the regular phrase once we reach the 4, just like the other verse. Okay. So that's it for the 5th verse. Nothing too crazy there, just the stops, and when you get a full band behind it, it sounds really cool. Following that, there's a slowdown. So right after the turnaround of the 5th verse, so we got so we just did. And then on the turnaround, I'm just gonna hold that E flat. They're all fermatas, so you can just hold them. On the recording, you'll learn how long they're really held for, but it's just kind of, if you were in a band, you would kind of make sure somebody's signaling the stops, and so you do them all together. And then you go to the 4 minor, so, okay, and then he does this little riff, which is just hammering on 8th fret to 10th fret on the 5th and 4th strings, and he's barring the kind of the 8th fret there. Okay, and then we've kind of stopped. It's kind of a false ending because we've stopped, but then you pick back up with that main riff again. And then the band comes back in just like the intro, and then that's it. You just kind of jam out for the rest of the song. And the only thing that really changes is after I think it's about 8 measures. 8 measures of that intro. Once the band comes in, you're going to switch to what is actually the same thing that is played in the 2nd acoustic guitar part, which is. Just kind of something they do when they're jamming out. And so you're going to go starting on the 4th string, 3, 3, 3, and you're coming up to 5, 5, 5. So nice and slow, 2, 3, 4. And that's it for the rest of the song, and that kind of happens right before we start fading out, and the song fades out shortly thereafter. So let's do that whole last verse, verse 5, all the way out, just so you can kind of see how it all fits together. So let's start with the, so verse 5 is the those hits with going down a fret below, okay? So let's count that off. We'll do a little bit slower than the tempo of the record. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold to the 4 minor. And back in with your main riff. Band in. Just switch that other riff. And that's really it by that point where it faded out. So as you can see, not terribly complicated, but enough that you can kind of spend some time with it, get familiar with where all the stops come, maybe make some notes if you need to make a quick chart for yourself, and then be like, oh, right, third verse is this, fourth verse is this. Because that's really the only thing that's going to probably trip you up if you're okay with bar chords. So that's cool. In the next scene, we're going to take a look at the harmonica solo arranged for electric guitar.